It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Lansing, Michigan, joined today by Norm Saari. He is a commissioner with the Michigan Public Service Commission, whose focus is what, sir?
Well, primarily to make sure that the gas and electricity that 10 million Michiganders want and need is available to them reliably, economically, safely, in an environmentally conscious manner.
And you regulate certain portions of the energy sector?
Sure, yeah. The role of the commission is very carefully prescribed in what the legislature has enabled us to do. The Michigan legislature actually in 1939, so it's been certainly a long-standing, it's been a while. Well, it's the outgrowth of the Railroad Commission, it's the outgrowth of the Telegraph Commission, now it's the Public Service Commission, where the legislature at that time, and it's obviously the legislation has been modified and improved over the past decade almost, but what we do is for the investor-owned utilities. These are primarily the large utilities in the state that we allow them to establish rates and rules of service. Now, what we don't have the same governance over are the municipal utilities or the electric rural cooperative utilities. We have some programs that apply to them, but in terms of rates, that's all local self-control.
I want to get a sense of how the commission's involved in the state mandate to meet certain renewable goals. Michigan, I guess about a decade ago, passed legislation requiring that in terms of the energy usage, 10% should be from renewable energy. And you're meeting those goals. Congratulations. In 2013, 7.8% renewable. In 2014, 9.1%. And you broke 10% in 2015.
Well, it's the commitment that Michigan's customers and Michigan's generators, the utilities have said that, and this is actually legislation that was enacted 8 years ago, where the legislature said, and the governor signed into law, a mandate that there shall be 10% of the electricity consumed in the state come from renewable sources. And so the utilities kind of looked at what's the best renewables out there. Price points were obviously high, but they're able to kind of, through the research and development, level things off greatly.
So let's talk about what the best is, because apparently the best in Michigan is wind. I mean, I was reading that when you look at wind usage as an energy source, in 2009, in terms of the renewable portfolio, you were at 7%. 2014, 44%? That's a seven-fold jump.
Absolutely. And in Michigan, you could go back a decade, and there were 3 commercial windmills in the state. One of them was near Traverse City, owned by the local municipal electric company, and 2 of them were up at Mackinac City that were owned by an independent operator. Well, those 3 windmills over the past decade have morphed into about 1,600 windmills.
From 3 to 1,600.
Exactly.
That's a big jump.
It'll be close to 2,000 by the end of this year. Because the technology's improved, the pricing has come down considerably, and again, to meet this environmental renewable energy mandate, the utilities put focus and emphasis into saying, we can make this work. We can work with the entrepreneurs and developers. It's creating jobs, it's creating a carbon-free footprint, and it's creating reliable electricity.
And in terms of jobs, I understand about 2,000 jobs added over the last decade in the renewable sector. I couldn't come at a better time. Michigan's had some challenges with the loss of manufacturing jobs. And what's also compelling is that, you said it, the price points are coming down. So we're not seeing these surcharges on customer bills. And so it winds up being net neutral, but we get the environmental benefit.
It's not only the environmental benefit in the jobs, but what it's doing is showing that Michigan is on a cutting edge nationally of using technology in an appropriate manner. And it's interesting that not only are residential and commercial and industrial customers getting a lot of their portfolio from renewable, but a lot of new industrial customers are saying, we'll come to Michigan, but we want 100% renewable.
Wow.
And there's a large data center that's going into the west side of the state that they currently have a major facility in Nevada. They're building a facility in Michigan with the commitment 100% of their power is going to be green power. That's a great commitment, and that's a great step forward that Michigan and the economic developers have been able to achieve.
Now, when I think about the state of Michigan, I wouldn't think solar energy would be a natural in terms of renewables. There are months where we are covered in snow, But yet, as part of a diversified portfolio, solar is starting to play a part. Tell me about that, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Commitments that there's a couple of areas of commitments. One is what the utilities are committed to do, and one is what the entrepreneurs, the private sector, what we call the basement Thomas Edisons are out there.
Right.
That they're looking at rooftop solars in certain instances. A number of Michigan universities, Michigan State, U of M, Grand Valley, Western. I don't want to exclude any, but they're all good. Northern,
right? Of course.
They're all part of a promotional program to let's take these small steps forward. Let's have a kilowatt hour, and then a megawatt hour coming from solar.
And it's all about diversification.
It's
in
about
the final analysis.
And it's about what that next step is, and that next step is certainly going to be continued energy waste programs to make sure that you're using energy wisely. It's also, when you look at what the scientists and the technicians are doing, the storage of energy. You know, that's the great next step. That's why solar can work. That's why wind can work. Sun doesn't shine 24/7, wind doesn't blow 24/7, but a storage would make that available 24/7.
I want to speak about our aging infrastructure. We know that there were some challenges and continue to be in Flint with regards to water pipes. That is not the purview of your commission, but it does call attention to our aging pipelines, specifically with regard to certain pipelines that are cast and wrought iron.
Absolutely.
I know that you testified in Washington recently. Give us a sense of what the challenge is on the pipeline infrastructure front.
Sure, that's a great issue of safety. It's safety for all of us. And in Michigan, we've got about 50,000 miles of underground natural gas distribution lines.
And that's the key, natural gas, not oil.
No, this is gas, not oil lines. The commission does not have responsibility for regulating oil lines. And interstate commerce is part of what the federal government does. Intrastate is what the commission does. But of those miles of natural gas pipeline, when Governor Snyder looked a couple of months ago at a State of the State address and saying, Michigan's infrastructure is aging. You know, it's an interesting story. In 1913, when Henry Ford drove that first Model A off the assembly line in the Detroit area, he drove it on roads that beneath that road was a natural gas pipeline. 1913.
They're still there?
Those lines are still there, and that Model A Ford is long since gone into the Smithsonian or Greenfield Village. So,
and I understand that there's a confluence of factors that make now the perfect time to start replacing these lines. Capital costs are dropping a bit, natural gas costs are dropping a bit, and so we can replace these lines with not a huge hit to the customer.
Sure, and what the utilities have committed to do is first of all do a survey of what lines are most critical to replace and when. And both the two largest utilities, Consumers Energy and Detroit Edison, and then Semco Energy, the three largest gas companies, they are replacing in the magnitude of about 200 miles a year. So this is still a long-term commitment and a long-term program, but economically this is the best time to do it because the price of the commodity is down so low.
And I understand the cost, the addition on your one's bill, 19 cents per month, $1.19 per month. So look, none of us want to pay more money, but it's pretty infinitesimal when you consider. I do want to ask you, sir, about the federal government. They're supposed to help out in this calculation.
Sure.
In our final moments, is Michigan getting the money that we deserve from the federal government for pipeline replacement?
Well, we have a very strong and very effective relationship with the federal agency now. It's called PHMSA. It's the hazardous
a lot of
material.
acronyms.
Yeah, it's out there. But more importantly, what PHMSA is doing and what the federal government is doing and what Congress is addressing now are programs to make sure that the utilities are going to see an increase in funding for safety programs. It's a safety program, the 1-800 call Miss Dig for underground contractors. You want to make sure safety is your most important commodity when you're dealing with underground issues.
He is Norm Saari, Commissioner of the Michigan Public Service Commission. I'm Brad Pomerance, Charter Local Edition.